Hey guys, Into the End here, back with another draft. We're still into the second half of the month, and we haven't quite hit Masters in draft yet. We're most of the way there. I think if we win a 7-2, maybe 7-1 in this draft, we can potentially hit Masters. So let's jump right in. Beckoning Lumen is quite good. Um, you don't actually need to trigger the Life Force for this card to be pretty decent. 5 damage for a 5 attack for 4 power is pretty good. The unfortunate part is that the 3 health is really easy to bring down. So your opponent can most likely trade sometimes a 3 casting cost card for this, so that's not a very good trade. But sometimes you get incremental value from just incidental life gain from your deck that you don't have to really dedicate your deck to life gaining, but you're gonna sometimes just get random life gain here and there, and that will give you a lot of benefit. Not amazing, but certainly the card here with the highest upside. If the Beckoning Lumen was not here, I would say probably take Aelin's Choice. Snapping Brush Stalker has games where it's amazing. For example, when you have Zenith Initiation making it a 6/5, and then your opponent's playing a bunch of little creatures and a bunch of spells, you just basically remove one of their spells every turn with this. But it is very slow, and it is very risky. So, no, it's a high risk, high reward kind of a scenario. So, maybe not my top pick. So we're going to take the Lumen here. If it's not here, we would take the Aelin's Choice. If that wasn't there, we would take the Striped or Arachidon or Aractodon. If that wasn't there, we would take the Awakened Sentinel. So I think 3 out of the top cards, 4 out of the top 6 cards are time, so we're just going to take a time card here. Another reason why I take the Beckoning Lumen over the Aelin's Choice is that this is a rare, and you don't get as many opportunity to play with rares in drafts as you do in commons. So when I get a chance to play with a rare, I want to play with it just for fun. So yeah, none of the other colors are good, so we'll grab that. Time is also one of the most strongest core colors. If we're taking the Brush Stalker, this would have been very good. Time is also one of the strongest core colors, so I'm pretty happy if I end up being core Time. Streetwise Informant is super powerful. Lots of things you can do with this card. You put weapons on it, it's very strong, it's a very good blocker. Gaining 2 armor per turn is like gaining life, so it's a good racing situation, but it's also incredible if you have a pretty decent weapon, which you can then, if you have a bit of a stalled board state, you can just give your weapon +2 armor every turn, and then you're going to be able to use your weapon over and over again. The tremendous amount of value in one card. I think this is the strongest card in the pack. I think Streetwise Informant, Tranquil Scholar are my prop, and Zenith Initiation. Basically, all the uncommons are my top picks. Dragon Breath is good, but perhaps just a slight notch below the power level of these 2 cards, and quite a bit below the power level of Streetwise Informant. Considering we've taken the Beckoning Lumen, if we want to stay on color, we would take the Zenith Initiation, but I think I like both of these cards significantly more enough that we're not going to take the Zenith Initiation. Let's take a look. Blues here, greens here, reds here. So there's a black card missing, I believe. So someone took a black rare. That's not really a sign, because rares are often picked because of their value, maybe legendary. And it's also second pick. We can't take that as a sign, but we do want to keep in mind that there is a black card missing from the second pack. I think I'm going to take the Streetwise Informant. This card has by far the highest upside. It does a lot of things for one card. Unfortunately, this is already 3 colors, but I think that's fine. You just want to pick the cards that are most likely to be able to give you the most powerful deck. And with 48 picks, I find often I have too many playables anyway, so picking this card with a slight risk that we don't get to play one of these cards, I think is okay. Let's go ahead and take the Streetwise Informant. Here, this pack is much weaker and not a lot of very good choices. We're certainly not going to take Reforge and Workshop Forge. You need a lot of weapons for this to be quite good, and you want your weapons to be pretty decent as well. You can't just grab random janky, like 3-drop weapons or even the 4-1 Javelier. It's fine, but it's too conditional. and the benefit isn't high enough to warrant the risk. It's great if you have an amazing weapon, but that's a risk um, as well because we may not ever see one. Definitely not going to draft a warp deck, and even if you have a warp deck, we're not going to use the workshop forge. So I think the best card in here is the sparring partner. Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna take the sparring partner. It is a 2-drop that has some potential upside later on in the game, but also perfectly fine play on turn 2. I think that's better than every other card here. And if you're comparing 2-drops, it's much better than this one here. This one is pretty risky. Your opponent plays a 3/3, and you're basically throwing this away for 1 damage. And a 1 power 2-1 spell is pretty good, but I think this has a higher upside than that one. So let's take the sparring partner. Crafty Yeti is fine as well, but I do like sparring partner here. So we see a very good card in red, a very good card in blue, a very good card in time. So no green cards at all. So we can see that green is being cut. The green card is missing, and the black cards are mediocre. Actually, Fallen Oni is okay. This card is deceivingly decent. It's not great, but it has its uses. A very interesting card. The reason for that is because, unlike in Magic, in Eternal, your deck never gets shuffled. Whenever you seek power, search for a card, the ordering of the cards in your deck never changes throughout the game. What that actually means is, let's say you're playing 1/3 of your deck being units, and the next 4 cards is a power, a unit, a spell, a power, a unit. So what you're getting is a unit on a second turn. You get a power, a unit, a spell, power, unit, spell. But what the Fallen Oni does is it gets rid of the first unit. So now what you're drawing is power, spell, power, unit, spell. What that means is your opponent is not going to draw a unit for that many more turns. And in a game where you're being aggressive and you're establishing board position and you're pressuring your opponent, this actually could cost him a lot. Especially if the variance is such that your opponent isn't going to see another unit for another 3 or 4 turns and you play this, then your opponent may not draw a unit until he dies. So for kind of a aggressive strategy, and you want to overwhelm your opponent on the board very early in the game, this is actually not a great card, but not a bad card. Deceivingly decent is what I would call it. So here, if green is in fact cut, the Streetwise Informant would probably be a splash card at best. I think here what we want to do is we want to pick the 4/4 time card here. I think jumping into the last 2 colors here on Hunter's Harpoon is a little ambitious, even with the plan of picking the best cards. A Hunter's Harpoon is fine if you are able to put it onto a decent unit or a flying unit. But if you don't have good units to put it onto, it won't do anything for you. Skyrider Vanguard is perfectly good in an aggressive, evasive, tempo-ish kind of a deck. But I think I'm going to go ahead and grab this 4-drop because 4-power 4/4s are really strong. If you can just have a deck full of 4-power 4/4s and 3-power 3/3s, I think you do very well. And I do kind of want to play with this Beckoning Lumen here, so let's just go ahead and take that over the other 2 cards. That might be a mistake, but I'm going to go ahead and take. I really do like Hunter's Harpoon, but I don't want to branch into all 5 colors in the first 4 picks. And Vanguard is fine, but I do think this 4/4, this meaty 4/4 is never a bad choice. So we see a good green card. No good black card. No good red card in this pack, although Grenade is fine. I think red is probably open. Humbuckle Swarm is very good though, so time seems okay. Green seems okay, red seems okay. Blue and black is somewhat lacking in power level here. Are we a Combre deck splashing? We don't even have to splash the Informant if we don't want to, but are we a Combre deck or are we... I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Humbug Swarm over the Roosting Hour. It's 1 power less to cast. It puts 3 power on the board, and it has a lot of good synergies with spells like Unlock Potential that pumps your entire team. And also, it's more likely to be in the color that we want to play, and we're not sure about green. And having one good green card in one pack isn't enough data points for us to confidently say that green is open yet. So let's not jump into it so fast. Let's grab this Humbug Swarm here. Okay, well that's enough sign then, I guess. 2 packs in a row, good green cards. I think we have a choice. We can take the Talon, and we can splash the Highwing Glider, which is actually a very good card, and I'm happy to splash this. Or I can grab the Journeyman Armorer, because red, we knew that it was open, and Praxis is a pretty good color. Praxis is a pretty strong color combination as well. But with that said, we haven't seen any of the great Praxis cards that we want to be in Praxis for. For example, if we want to be in Praxis, we should be, we should have like a Purify, for example, a couple more Warp cards. So because we don't have that, I'm not as inclined to go into Praxis this late. I think between these 2 cards, the Highwing Glider has much higher upside, and it's much more of a irreplaceable effect, whereas the Talon is a little bit more replaceable. In some games, you just play it as a 2-drop and kill their 2-drops, in which case any 2-drops that any 2 mana unit will do the same job. So let's go ahead and take the Highwing Glider with the potential to splash it. Now we have 2 very strong splashable cards. We may even play a 4-color deck and double splash, but don't know. Cannon Bear is very good. Time Weaver is good. The red card's good, the blue card's good, the time card's good, the green card's good. I don't know how good this pack must have been for all of these great cards to survive this long. That's tough. Maybe too late to jump into the fire deck, so let's dismiss the Cannon Bear. Definitely not the black card here. We have almost no blue except for the Highwind Glider, so let's dismiss the Cyclops. I guess the choice is between the green and the time card. I like Time Weaver quite a bit, but we already have a 5-drop and 2 4-drop, a bunch of 4-drops. Our curve is looking decidedly high. Let's just go ahead and grab another 2-mana spell. I'm really worried about not having enough 2-drops. So let's grab this now. And just pass up on the Time Weaver, which is a pretty good card. Yeah, that's too bad. I would have liked to play Time Weaver. Yep, Envelop is actually a pretty good combat trick. We're gonna go ahead and grab that. None of these other cards are good for our deck. We'll just take well, we already have a lot of 4-drops. I'm not sure if I want to take another one in Camp Physician. And 4-mana 2/2 is just horrendous, even if it gangs you 3 life. Although it does have some combo with the Beckoning Lumen. I guess for that reason, let's take it. None of these cards are going to be in our deck. We're not going to play Trail Runner, I don't think. Oh, it comes back. Well, not it comes back. Another one. So I think 1 Time Weaver for a deck is good enough. So I'm pretty glad I missed that I didn't take the first one. Because my 4/5 drop slot is looking super heavy at the moment. I think here, because we're not in black at all, that's really unfortunate. Ashar the Death Shot is really difficult to beat. In fact, this card's like removal or bust, right? Removal, silence, or bust. This card's unbeatable if you don't have removal or silence. Nobody can brawl with this card here. Silvermoon Familiar has a very high upside. If you draft a good enough weapon, this card is very difficult to beat, so it has a game-winning potential. But I think I'm going to go ahead and take the Awakened Student here. Awakened Student, actually, that's not even true, because I may not even be Combre. I can still take the Rakana Outlaw, which is a very good card. I can even take the Ashar Death Shot and just go Zenin here. Wow, we have a lot of options. We could totally just go Zenin and take the Ashar Death Shot. Or we can take the Awakened Student, but we really only do have just a sparring partner. Oh no, we have 2 sparring partners. So we're giving up 2 sparring partners and an Awakened Student for an Ashar Death Shot. That seems like it's almost worth it. Although Zenin is by far the worst color, and in the first pack, we saw no signs that Zenin was open, and we didn't see any good Zenin cards either. So we're really just playing Zenin for the sure power level of Ashura on its own. That's not a great place to be. Also, if we take away the two sparring partners, we have no 1-drop, no 2-drop, and no 3-drops. I think that's the deciding factor. This is an incredibly powerful card. It is going to win you some games, but I think what you need to do is draft a deck and not draft a bunch of good cards. A bunch of good cards can sometimes win you in a game, but you do need to draft a cohesive deck. And a cohesive deck means a curve, the right number of unit counts. 2-drops is very important for a cohesive deck. I'm going to go ahead and take the Awakened Student here, over the Silverwing Familiar, over the Ashura, and over the Arcana Outlaw. Might be a mistake, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, pretty happy to be in green now, because if we're taking the Ashura, our pick here would have been the Stone Scar Magus, which is a perfectly fine playable card, but 4th Tree Elder is definitely our pick here. We could splash blue for the Scouting Party, but the 4th Tree Elder is actually really good, and I'm wondering in draft if they are close enough in power level, because in constructed, this is a lot more powerful because you have more ways to take advantage of it. But in draft, there's a lot of games where your opponent would just have a bunch of random 2/2 sitting around because you got into a board stall, in which case having 4 1/1s won't help you because you can't attack your opponent anyway. But the 4th Tree Elder is almost always a good draw in any given situation, so let's go and grab that. Yep, we're going to go ahead and grab this 5 power 6/5. This is the reason you want to be in time. You want as many of these giant dinosaurs. Oh, that is a good card. So is that. So is that. Jeez, this deck is good. We're going to be very happy with any one of these 3 cards. I think the Flight Lieutenant gives you the highest upside at the end of the game, where you could literally win the game by playing this and playing a land. But it's a 7-drop. Enlightened Stranger might allow you to build up a board position that is unlosable in the mid-game, though. This card is very strong, if we do want to double splash something and we pick up a bunch of strangers, this card can make a lot of large strangers very quickly. Brightmaze Paladin is at its best when you can pump it, and right now we don't have any way to pump it except for sparring partnering it. We have no weapons of any kind, no unlocked potentials. But the Brightmaze Paladin also triggers the Beckoning Lumen, which is worth consideration, and this is also a 3-drop versus a 4-drop here. But I think this is a more replaceable card. It's a common. We may pick up another copy or 2 later on, whereas Enlightened Strangers are rare. Just like why I picked the Beckoning Lumen over the Alien's Choice. We don't get a lot of opportunities to play with rare cards like this, so we're going to take it just so that we can play with a rare card. Twinning Ritual was quite good. Another good reason to splash blue. But we're going to go ahead and take up the Stranger here. I know the Amber Monument is very good, but the Rakano Stranger is a 2-drop. It works really well with the Enlightened Stranger. Actually, red is the only color that we're not splashing. I think maybe if this Stranger splashes either black or blue. This 5/5 Overwhelm and reducing your chance of getting power screwed or power flooded, is actually very good now that I'm thinking about it. It really is because the Rakano Stranger doesn't help us splash anything. Alright, I talked myself out of the Stranger. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Monument here. Low Watchwing, Treasury Guard. I think in this deck, because we have no removal so far, and we actually have a lot of very big units that is very good with Predatoric Instinct, I want to go ahead and take this as a removal spell. We do need a little bit of it. Very good reason to splash blue. The more I am drafting here, the more I want to splash blue for this, because we have some very good blue cards that we could splash. But I think we'll take the Scorpion Wasp here for the time being. No, this is good enough. This is good enough. No, we'll take the Scorpion Wasp. I think having a way to deal with problematic creatures is pretty good. We don't have any real removal spells. Predatory Instinct doesn't always get the job done when your opponent's unit's too big. Envelop only works if they attack you. So if your opponent has... Well, I guess that... this only works if they attack you as well, so they suffer the same problem. But this is an actual removal spell, whereas this is just buys you 1 turn. Yeah, let's go ahead and take that. Safe return might not be bad here. I have some very high quality units that I don't mind saving, but I think with a lot of very large late game units, having a good way to clock up the ground and survive is good, and our 3-drop slot is pretty light at the moment. So we'll take up the 0/6 Dune Phantom here. Combat Banner without a thought. You definitely want the fixing. Here we take up the Rakano Stranger, the one that we missed from before. Very happy to pick up that Stranger. Memory Dredger, another good black rare. Had we taken the Shard, we would have gone for that, but no, we are not going down that path anymore. So Time Weaver number 3. Well, number 2 for us because we passed one up, but I think our 5-drop slot is getting pretty crowded. I'm not sure that I want another one. But Persecutor Arm is a 6-drop, and our 6-drop slot is also very crowded. I'm actually going to pick up this Spike Buckler here. It may seem kind of weird, but sometimes all you need is a decent sized flyer or decent sized ground unit with endurance. You slap a Spike Buckler onto it, and sometimes that wins games. And we're taking this over these 2 cards mostly for curve considerations. But a Spike Buckler is also a decent enough card. So yeah. Persecutor Arm is just too slow as a 6-drop. Let's pick up the Buckler here. This is definitely a card worth another Persecutor at Arms. This is definitely a card worth splashing for, and I would seriously consider a black splash. We have a blue splash and we have a black splash, and this is definitely worth splashing. The time card is something that I would not play, and I don't really want a 6-drop for the same reason why I didn't take it the last like 2 or 3 times I saw it. So I think I really do just want to take the Slate here and now really focus on getting some black splashing. Let's do that. I think I'm more likely to splash black than blue. I do want a cheap, effective removal spells like this over a very slow, grindy 1/5 flyer that draws your card every turn, but takes a long time to work. So Shelter Wing Rider. We drafted 2 of these on our last draft, and this card's amazing. But I think here it's a very easy pick. Archive Creator is exactly what you want to halt all your opponent's offenses. Silencing effects are invaluable. We're gonna step. Our 4-drop is definitely getting very crowded though, so we're gonna have to be careful when we construct our deck. Minotaur Oathkeeper is a better card if you have a very aggressive deck. And our deck is not looking aggressive at all. We're looking like a slow, grindy, you know, go to the mid game, play large 6/5s, 4/6s, kind of a deck. So for that reason, I'm going to take another Archive Creator and just go crazy on the 4-drop here, but I think that's fine. I mean, that is after our game plan. Let's grab the 2-drop here. Our 2-drop slot is definitely needing some help. Yep, I don't think you can ever have enough Archive Creators. I'm just going to keep taking them if they keep coming to me. Yep, Battle Tested Stranger is good because we have a sub-Stranger theme right now. The Horror Banner will help us splash blue, but I'm actually thinking I'll be splashing black, so I'm not going to take it over a perfectly good playable card in our deck in the Battle Tested Stranger. Yeah, you know what? We're just going to play mono 4-drops. If we... Another 4-drop. If we survive to turn 4, I think we'll be doing great. And I think to help us survive to turn 4, we're going to play this otherwise completely unplayable 1-mana spell that I have never played with this card, and I really don't want to play with this card. But in this deck, I feel like I need this card over the 3/5. It's the right colors, but man, this thing is hard to activate. Wow. All 4 of these cards are fine. Well, this one's okay, but Combat Healer is excellent. Karmic Guardian is super good. Another 4-drop. And a 6-drop. Okay, well, clearly the Champion of Progress is by far the strongest card if you can last that long. But Karmic Guardian is really good, and it's a 4-drop. But we have no way to take advantage of the card right now. We don't have any way to buff it. We have just a Spike Buckler. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the Champion of Progress here. The upside is pretty absurd. And the biggest reason is we currently don't have any way to take advantage of the Guardian. We do need to draw some way to buff it, and we just don't have that many ways right now. And we have so many good 4 mana 1/4 flyers that I think this is going to be better for us. Even though the combo healer may keep us alive longer in the mid game, this is a pretty strong late game bomb, I think. Let's go ahead and take that in. Oh, that would have been very good on the Karmic Guardian, but this is exactly the kind of card I need. I need the Amber Acolyte because it gives me lands, it helps me splash, and it's also an early game play that I can block with. This is everything I need from a card, so I'm going to grab this. Definitely over the Gilded Glaive there. Ooh, Auric Sentry is another card that I would definitely take here. Auric Sentry over the Steward of Prophecy because my 4-drop slot is already super clogged, and I have so many Archive Curators that I can silence with that I don't actually care too much about this silence effect. And a 4-power 4/3 is fine, but I already have a bunch of 4-power 4/4s and 5-power 6/5s and 4-power 5-power 4/4s and a lot of good units in those colors already. But the Sentry is early, it helps stabilize the board, and it's a very strong card if you can attack with it every turn, so we'll grab that. Alright, well this Stranger helps us splash black, and I think we will take the Well, the Stranger helps us splash black, so does the Amber Acolyte, but the Stranger works with the Battle-Tested Stranger and also the Enlightened Stranger. So I think that I'll take the Stranger over cards like the Bright Maze Paladin is otherwise a great card, but I don't have any ways to buff it except for the Start Barring Partners and a Buckler. I think I can make do without it. I'm just going to go ahead and grab the Stranger here for more synergy. Yeah, I'll just play infinite 4-drops. Why not? Well, this time we'll take the Bright Maze Paladin over the second Scorpion Wasp. Why not? We'll just play infinite 4... Another 4-drop. Can I... No, I'm not going to take this 4-drop. I'm going to take this 1-drop. It's not a great 1-drop. We may very well end up cutting this card, but if we do get it on turn 1, over the course of the game, you can gain 7 or 8 in life, and that's pretty good in a deck that looks like this on the 4-drop here, and basically needs to not die until it hits the 4-drop. So I think this card is probably playable in our deck. Ancient Lure is probably okay. Wow, every card we want is a 4-drop. This is mono 4-drop dot deck. We're not going to take the Valkyrie Aspirant. We're not aggressive enough. We don't need a 1-drop that does 1 damage. It's going to be between the Ancient Lure or the Steward's Shield. I think I'm actually going to take the Shield here. We have a lot of really strong units with very high attack. Putting the Shield onto them makes it very difficult for my opponent to block. And putting a Stalwart Shield onto even something like a Bright Maze Paladin or like an Auric Sentry, allowing you some free attacks, is a big difference. So we'll go ahead and grab that. Yep, none of these other cards are going to be in my deck. We'll take this Arctic Blast. Oh, a lot of really good red cards late. Well, not this one. This is a pretty good aggressive red card, but it's not for every deck, so I can see why some people might not want it. This is a mediocre card, but Crownwatch Deserter is very good, so nobody's in these kind of color combinations. Yep, Echoing Dagger will take with the expectation that we won't play. This deck is actually not bad. This deck has a lot of very, very, very good cards, but where it really falls apart is I didn't draft enough mana fixing, so I think our influence requirement is going to be difficult. And two, we clearly didn't draft the right curve, and we know exactly why that happened. As the packs, we didn't pick enough 2-drops early in the game. We ended up picking a lot of 5 and 4 and 6-drops early in the game because they were just that much better, and thinking that we could pick up the 2-drops later. And as we got to the later packs, the more and more we realized there were actually no playable 2-drops and 3-drops. We got what we can, but every pack that came, it was just full of 4-drops, and all of our options were 4-drops. So we were forced to keep taking the 4-drops, which led us to this fairly uncomfortable position that we're in now. So this deck is going to be quite a bit of work. I can definitely see this draft going pretty badly as we get into some games, but let's just take a look at what we have to work with. Okay, the curve. Clearly, if we're cutting anything, we're cutting from the 4-drop slot. it's pretty ridiculous. We have 26 units, which is too many. I think we are pretty happy with probably 20 units at this point. In fact, most of our deck is units. We only have 2 attachments. The attachments that are both pretty decent, so I'm inclined to hold on to them. Maybe I can cut the Spike Bucket at this point because I pick up the Stalwart Shield. And the 4 spells are not fantastic. Envelop is a combat trick that's only relevant when you're in a racing situation. But I do feel like having 1 in the deck is pretty good. Slay is very good though, so we definitely keep Slay. Predatory Instinct in this deck is most likely going to get us a free kill on when we play on one of our large units, so I think that's still keepable. And the final spell is Humbug Swarm, which is essentially just another unit. I think we're going to go ahead and cut Humbug Swarm because we have no way to really pump it. And having 3 1/1 flyers in the air without pumping it is not fantastic. Time Weaver is something this is a pseudo removal spell in the sense that, well, quote unquote removal, not really. You by more of a discard spell. By making so that your opponent can't play one of the spells in their hand, or make it fairly expensive that they waste their whole turn instead of being able to play that spell plus something else. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. But also 5 power for 3/4 body is very weak, so I'm not sure how much I like this. Let's just temporarily cut it for now. This is going to be a 18 land deck because our curve is very high, and if we're always going to be missing land drops, even if we hit 5 or 6 lands, if we're only playing 1 card per turn, we will fall behind against some of the faster aggressive decks. So we want to play 18 lands, so we have to make 3 more cuts here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 11 spells we can play in the first 3 turns, and we have a ton of 1/4 silencing flyers and a 1/1 flyer here and a 1/4 flyer here and a 4/6. I feel like I don't need the Dune Phantom anymore. It's a good blocker, but it doesn't do any damage, and I really dislike the fact that it's just purely defensive and it sits there. It helps prolong a board stall, but it doesn't help you break through it. So I'm gonna cut that. Enlightened Stranger has 1, 2, itself, plus the bat. So there's 4 strangers in the deck. I think that's enough synergy to keep it around. And often growing itself is good enough. Definitely cutting the Karmic Guardian. I'm going to play all of the Curators because they're just amazing. There's some argument for not playing the Beckoning Lumen and not playing the Sanctuary Priest, because if I cut those 2 cards, then that's exactly 27 cards. And this is a perfectly good deck. We have no other way except for the Karmic Guardian, and if we're somehow able to buff the Bright Mace Paladin to gain life. So the ability to trigger the Beckoning Lumen is not very great. But if you can gain a life every turn and draw an extra card every turn, that benefit is just phenomenal. I think what I'm going to do is cut the Streetwise in format. We don't have any weapons to get benefit from the armor, and we're going to have a really tough time splashing black. So we may even have to cut the Slay just because of potential power issues. So let's do that. Let's put the Beckoning Lumen back in along with the Sanctuary Priest. So I have to cut 1 more card. And you know, the more I look at this deck, the more it's looking like it's Slay, because I only have a single black power. Oh no, never mind. I have an Amber Acolyte, so that's 2. That's 2 ways to splash. And I do have a dual land, a banner, a combat banner, so maybe that's good enough in terms of the splashing. For at least just for 1 card, right? And Slay is not something I have to play on turn 3. It's most likely something, as long as I can play this card somewhere in the middle of the game. So I have 3 chances to get to multiple chances to get to a black by, say, mid-game, and that would be good enough. So I think that's fine. Wasp is also a pseudo removal spell. I think, as ironic as this sounds, we might cut one of the striped Rakdodons because I have so many good 4-drops. I don't know if I need another one. Huh. Or I can get rid of the Execution Assistant, because I actually do have a decent number of early game blockers now, and I even have a bunch of flyers when we get to turn 4, so maybe I don't need it. Yeah, you know what? I talked myself into cutting this card. Ornamental Daggers might be pretty good in my deck. It works really well with the Bright Maze Paladin. It works really well with my Karmic Guardian. But I think I'm okay not using it. Alright, so this is my deck. There's a few cards that I'm not sure about. I can certainly play with the Ornamental Dagger. I can certainly cut the Beckoning Lumen combo altogether. I might have been a mistake cutting the Humbug Swarm. But yeah, I think the reasons for why I did what I did is pretty rational. So let's see how this deck does. So we have one black here, and then 2, 3 access to black and a single black card. I think 4 sources is probably more than enough. And here we have 7, 8, 9 time, and 8 justice. Does that look right? That gives me an additional justice. So it's 9 and 9. 9 time, 9 justice. Do I need more? The first double casting cost card we have is time, so I think we should have, if anything, more time than justice. In fact, we only have a single card that requires double justice, so maybe we go 1 less and 1 more time, especially because if the Amber Monument turns into a unit, then we lose another time as well. So this is more like 8, 9, 8, 9, 10 versus 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, this seems okay. All right, let's see how we do.